Well, as I discussed, that electric field is actually the space around a charge up to which its experienced its effects can be experienced, right? Now, this field can be understood in three different ways. One is vector method, that is electric field intensity. Another is scalar method, electric potential. We'll discuss in the next chapter. And third one is the graphical method. In this graphical method, we understand electric lines of force. In short, I'll write ELOF. Graphically understanding the electric field is electric lines of force. Now, first of all, the definition of electric line of force is in this way, that it should not be called a definition. It's a supporting electric line of force around a charge. If we have a charge, around it there are some lines of force. Then at any point, if we draw a tangent, then it will give the direction of electric field. It is called a supportive kind of state. Still, we will call it a definition. So, definition of electric field, electric lines of forces. An electric line of force is a line such that a tangent drawn on any point of the line gives direction of E at that point. Now this is called a definition. Further, now we talk about the properties of electric lines of force. That is very important point. Properties. First property A. Electric lines of force are supposed to be radiating out, or I should say coming out of positive charge and terminate into negative charge. Look, it's a positive charge. Electric lines of force are supposed to be coming out of the charge. And here is the negative charge. Now, it can be coming from anywhere, from negative in negative charge, but they will go inside the negative charge. They will terminate into the negative charge. This is the first property, right? Second one, I'm talking about properties. First property is this, that from positive charge they move out, from negative charge. In negative charge they terminate into. Secondly, electric lines of force are continuous curves, right? Continuous curves without any break. If it goes like this, then from this point to this point, this will be certainly positive side. It will go here in negative side. Anywhere there is no breakage, two electric lines of force never cross each other. Now, what will happen if they cross? As per the definition, that if I draw a tangent at any point, that will give the direction of electric field intensity in at that point. Suppose there are two lines intersecting each other. At this point, this is line 1, this is line 2. Line 1 says that this is E1 and this is E2, which is impossible. At a single point, we can't have two directions of electric lines of force. Why? Because by the definition of electric field, it is F by Q. Now F equals to QE. Now if I place a charge Q here, it will experience a force here also and here also. Definitely there will be a net force. It can't move in two directions simultaneously. So in the same way, there must be one direction of electric line of force. Now, what happens actually when there are two lines of force which come close? Let me explain you. This is the third property. Look, here is a positive charge. Here is another positive charge. This line of force coming here, coming here. They just deviate in this way. Right? They never cross. They go in this way. And if there is one positive charge, another negative charge, then it will be like this. And we are getting it like this. This is called lateral dilation. This is called longitudinal contraction. This is called lateral pressure. If similar charges are put together, then the lines of force exert lateral pressure, and this is called longitudinal contraction. This is another property, property number 3, right? Now, next property I'll talk about, fourth one, number of electric lines of force from 1 coulomb charge. Later, when you'll study the Gauss theorem, you'll come to know about this, is equal to 1 upon epsilon naught. I hope you remember the value of epsilon naught, 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 90. This is the number of electric lines of force linked with 1 coulomb of charge. If you have 1 coulomb of positive charge, then 1 upon epsilon naught number of lines of force are radiating out, And if it is negative charge, then 1 by epsilon naught number of electric lines of force are terminating into the negative charge. Well, next property. From a metallic surface, electric lines of force radiate or terminate always normal to surface. Look, I have this metallic surface, simple, right? This is there is some charge over it. For a moment, if I assume that the electric line of force is in this direction, right? There will be some angle alpha. Here it will be E cos alpha. Here it will be E sin alpha. Now, as per the definition, E is equal to F by Q. Then F equals to QE. Actually, this will happen at each point, right? It's not only for this point. At every point, there will be electric field intensity in any direction. Now, at each point, there will be a component of electric field intensity, E cos alpha, parallel to the surface of the metal. And this is perpendicular, this won't do anything. Now, if there is free charge on the surface, then this E cos alpha will exert a tangential force. At each point, there will be some E cos alpha. So, this metal as a whole will have a surface current. We have given just charge. We are not supplying any electrical energy from outside, from battery or anything. Still there is electric current surface, which is impossible, because when current flows, that's a proof of electrostatic energy, and we are not providing any kind of energy, still there is energy. That's a violation of energy conservation principle. So, that in that term, we can also understand that these electric lines of force from a metal surface can only be, there is one possibility, that it is only normal, so that it cannot have any component tangential. So from a metal surface, if the electric lines of force come out or terminate, they will always be perpendicular to the surface. Further, last one, that electric lines of force are, if I form this like this is positive, this is negative, and these lines are terminated here, and as I draw these lines, they are supposed to be coming from infinity. And here to be understood, if this is a plus charge, and there is no other charge up to a large distance, then its electric lines of force will be like this. Exactly as the rays radiating from sun. For a negative charge, it will be like this. Right? Now, that's about the electric lines of force. Now, I define a new term called electric flux. Now I define electric flux. Let me tell you the meaning of flux. It comes from flow. Actually, I should call it count of flow. Look, if I have something like this ring I have, or I should take anything else, suppose this container ion, right? Suppose this is hollow from inside, right? If I cut from this side, then suppose water is coming from this way, from your side to me. If I hold this, then maximum amount of water will pass through. Now I tilt it. I tilt it in this way first. Then the water will come and just cross these boundaries parallel. No, zero amount of water is crossing through this given area. But if I make this kind of situation, then there will be some amount of water that will be crossing through this area. I'm using word again and again, crossing through the area. If I move this, if I keep this, then the maximum amount of water is crossing through the area. In this way, it becomes lesser. Here, it becomes zero. Now, what is flux actually? If anything can flow, first of all, if anything which can flow. Now, if it is passed through a given area, then the amount of that flowing quantity is calculated in the terms of flux. In the terms of flux. Here, electric lines of force. Now, first of all, I define for a quantity which can flow, the amount of flow or the count of flow crossed through a given area is called flux. It is derivative of flow. Anything which can flow, then if it has some linkage, it can be called cross through or it can be called linkage. In case of electric lines of force, the number of electric lines of force crossing through a given area is called electric flux linked with that area. Now, how to define it? First of all, I'll give you a definition of electric field intensity in terms of electric lines of force. E defined in terms of electric lines of force. It is defined as the number of electric lines of force crossing a unit area at any point gives the magnitude of this electric field intensity at that point. Now, what does it mean? Suppose lines of force are in this way somewhere. I take unit area this better sign for the diagrammatic convenience. Suppose I have this amount of unit area. placed in this way, right? I place this unit area here also. I place this unit area here also. I place this unit area here also. Here at the position 1, there are 2 lines of force crossing. Here also 2. Here 3 lines of force crossing. Here 4 crossing. Now, as the lines of force denser at some point, then definitely if I place a unit area, unit means say 1 centimeter square or say 1 mm square, whatever you can count it. Now, if I place a unit area, then if lines are denser, then the number of lines of force will be more crossing the given area. If the lines are rarer, then it will be lesser. Now look here carefully. I can say that if here is electric field E1, here is E2, here is E3, here is E4. Definitely, the E4 is densest. It is greater than E3, greater than E2, and E1 are same. This is the definition of electric field intensity in terms of electric lines of force crossing a given area. Now, it is what exactly? Now, I define flux as I have given the verbal definition. The number of lines of force crossing a given area is called flux. Now, electric flux, I say. The number of electric lines of force linked, I will say, across a given area. Now, it is a simple definition of electric flux. Now, I define mathematical definition. Mathematically, electric flux phi E dot is the mathematical definition. I'll explain why it is taken. Then this phi equals to EA cos of theta. Look here. The line of force are here in this direction. I place an area in this way. Then area is a vector having direction perpendicular to the plane of area. Electric field has this direction. This is first situation. Now secondly, if I make area in this way, right? The direction of area vector will be this. E will be this. Here angle between E and A is 0. Cos 0 maximum. Flux is EA. Here angle between area and E is 90 degree. Cos 90 is 0. Here flux will be 0. These are the two examples. As I gave you the example of flowing water through this particular section. Maximum 0. Now from at 0 degree it is maximum, at 90 degree it is minimum. It is a property of cos, hence the dot product is selected. No other reason why this mathematical definition is given. Only the cross product resembles with this phenomenon. That it is maximum when angle is 0 and it is minimum when angle is 90 degree. That happens with the cos. So it is the property of cosine, hence we have taken here the dot product as the for representation, no other reason. Now in between, from 0 to 90, the flux will be changing from EA to 0. It may be decreasing. If we move from 0 to 90, it may be at 90 to 0, it may be increasing, whatever. This definition will help us a lot. Right? Now this definition gives the mathematical meaning of electric flux. Now this, I have given a straight definition for a given area, for given electric field. Let's solve an example. Fine. Then we will move further. I make this area. Look here carefully. Now this is area A. This is simply some area. This A square I take 2 meters square, right? Given E is equal to, first case, say 4 Newton per Coulomb I cap along x-axis. In second case, E is equal to 4 Newton per Coulomb J cap. In third situation, I take E is equal to 4 K cap. In fourth situation, I take E is equal to 2 I cap plus 2 J cap. Now, I explain it. If I use dot product everywhere, okay, at each point. Here, the area vector is what? Area vector is what? 2 I cap along x-axis, right? Now make dot product of first 4 I cap dot 2 I cap, it is 8. Second, now if electric field is along y-axis, then there will be no cross through. So, in second case, 4 J cap dot 2 I cap will be 0. Third situation, 4 K cap. Again, electric field is in this direction, there will be no cross through. So, 4 K cap dot this 2 I cap, again 0. Last, 2 I cap plus 2 J cap. Suppose the electric field has one component, Ex component, and this Y component. Then again, the flux will be 2 I cap dot 2 J cap is equal to 4. 2 J cap dot 2 I cap 0. It will be 4. It will be again due to only the component along x-axis. I hope now you understand the meaning of flux. I have given you an example of flow of anything, flow of water, flow of air, anything which can flow. If it has some cross through and through an area, then amount of that crossing through calculated, that is called the electric flux. Say flux in general. Here I have talked about the electric lines of force. Electric lines of force are also supposed to flow from positive charge and terminate into negative charge. In between, if there is any area arising, right, then there will be amount of flow through that area. We want to calculate at lots of places that will help us to find this amount of flow through a given area, and that is defined as electric flux, right? Now, I think further I move, this is the definition of electric field, and now I make a formal definition of electric flux, and then I will talk about the Gauss law, which is very important milestone in electrostatics. It's now Gauss theorem says, or Gauss law, the electric flux, better I'll say, the total electric flux linked with a closed surface is equal to Q enclosed upon epsilon. Now let's understand. This is a surface which is closed. There is some charges Q1, Q2, Q3, so on. Total charge Q and closed. Whatever it will be, the algebraic sum, whatever it is. Now at this point, if I have some electric field E1 and this area is ds1, at this point I have electric field E2. I can have different values, and here it is ds2. This area. In the same way, if I do E3, ds3, and so on. Now flux through this point E1 dot ds1, at this point E2 dot ds2, at this point E3 dot ds3. Now E dot ds, I should write summation I equals to 1 to n, and summation becomes integration if it for the small values. E dot ds over the entire closed surface. I hope you know, if integration is done for the closed surface, we put a symbol here like this. Now according to this definition, this is the total flux, which must be flux is equal to this. I write here the total flux E dot ds over the closed surface is equal to Q n closed upon epsilon. This is the statement of Gauss law. We will gradually, first of all, I'll prove it by the simplest possible example, because to get its complete proof, it's beyond our syllabus. We will prove it by a simple example. Then we will take use of it, and there is a huge use of this Gauss theorem. To prove Gauss theorem is not important, not that much important, but its uses are very important. First of all, as we know that Coulomb's law or electric field, I say simply, first of all let me explain. Here there is some charge Q, and here at distance R there is some charge Q naught, right? Now at this point, this is O, this is A. At this point, the force by this charge Q naught, 4 pi epsilon naught R square R cube. Now E is defined as F by Q naught, Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R square R cube. This is the value of electric field intensity. This is Coulomb's law. Now if I can derive Coulomb's law from Gauss theorem, then it is authenticated. Now I am going to deduction of Coulomb's law from Gauss theorem. Now let's do this analysis, then we can have some trustworthy statement. There is a sphere, there is a charge Q placed at the center of the sphere. The radius of the sphere is R. I assume an area, this area ds. At this point, there is electric field E. Now, at this element, flux is d phi. I take small value, right? It is d phi E dot ds. Now look, E is what here? Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R square. I draw a unit vector n cap in this direction. N cap dot ds ds is also along n cap. So the angle between n cap and ds will be 0, and n cap is a unit vector. I have q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square ds. Now we can have lots of other ds, other areas also. To find the total amount of flux, we just need to integrate over the entire surface, over this entire closed surface. This is phi q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is ds, entire area 4 pi r square. Look, I started from the definition of electric field intensity, which is from Coulomb's law. Now, Coulomb's law finally gave us this 4 pi cancel, r square cancel, phi is q by epsilon naught. Coulomb's law, Gauss law. Reverse also can be done. Now, this simple example proves that Gauss theorem is authentic. Further, there will be lots of applications of Gauss theorem.